You're about to enter a truth so sharp it cuts through the illusions we've built around love. Because while I love you can be the most healing phrase in the world, it can also be the most dangerous. Not when it's absent, but when it's spoken with a hidden blade behind it. Some of us have been wounded, not by hatred, but by love that came with conditions, with control, with manipulation. And the most terrifying part is that many of us didn't even see it happening. It didn't come as violence, it came as affection. It didn't come as rejection, it came as praise. And that's what makes it so insidious. What if the words "I love you" were never meant to comfort you, but to control you? What if they weren't a promise, but a trap? What if that phrase, sacred in our culture, has been turned into a weapon by those who never truly learned how to love? That's what we're exploring today. The psychology of people who weaponize "I love you." And if you've ever felt like love was used against you, not for you, then this will be your awakening. Let's begin with a paradox. Love is supposed to be freeing, yet many of us have felt most trapped in relationships where "I love you" was said the most. Why? Because those words, when spoken by someone who doesn't understand love, are not expressions, they're transactions. They say "I love you," but what they mean is, now you owe me. Owe me loyalty. Owe me silence. Owe me obedience. And if you break the unspoken contract, you are punished not directly, but emotionally, with guilt, with coldness, with withdrawal. And you begin to associate love not with safety, but with fear. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them." If we view "I love you" as always good, always pure, always safe, we blind ourselves to its misuse. We forget that even the most beautiful words can be corrupted by broken people. And this is why awareness is everything. Because when you realize that love can be used as leverage, you stop being so easily pulled by it. You begin to ask, what is the intent behind these words? What follows them? What do they expect in return? The people who weaponize love are often not monsters. They are wounded deeply, but that doesn't make their behavior less harmful. In fact, it often makes it more convincing, because they believe themselves. They believe themselves with "they love you," but their love is fused with fear, fused with control, fused with unmet needs they never learned how to meet on their own. So when they say "I love you," what they really mean is, don't leave me, don't change, don't make me feel abandoned. And suddenly your freedom becomes their threat. This is the root of emotional manipulation. Not malice, but unhealed fear. Still, fear is no excuse for harm. And the more we understand this, the more we can protect ourselves from it. The people who weaponize "I love you" often see love as ownership, as a contract, as a guarantee. And when you begin to assert your independence, your truth, your boundaries, they interpret it as betrayal. Because to them, love means compliance, and anything else is treason.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Have you ever heard someone say, "If you really loved me, you would..." That's not love. That's emotional blackmail. It's the subtle twisting of affection into obligation. It's the transformation of "I love you" into "I own you." And it's more common than we think. It happens in romantic relationships, yes, but also in families, in friendships, even in spiritual communities. Anywhere connection is confused with control, love becomes a weapon. Let's go deeper. Why do we fall for this? Why do we stay in relationships where love hurts more than it heals? Because we are taught that love is the highest currency. And when someone tells us they love us, we assume that means we're safe, that they mean well. that we should trust them. But love, in the hands of someone who is emotionally immature or manipulative, becomes a form of currency used to buy your silence, your surrender. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "What is done out of love always takes place beyond good and evil." But that's only true of real love. Weaponized love hides behind morality. It says, "I'm doing this because I care." It says, "I'm only trying to help." And meanwhile, your spirit is shrinking. Your voice is fading. Your sense of self is dissolving. Because every time you try to speak your truth, they say, "But I love you." And somehow, that's supposed to end the conversation. So let's flip the script. Let's stop being disarmed by those words. Let's start asking, does this love make me feel more like myself or less? Does this love invite me to grow or require me to shrink? Does this love support my truth or ask me to suppress it for their comfort? These are not small questions. They are the difference between real intimacy and emotional captivity. Here's what we must understand. Real love is not afraid of your boundaries. Real love doesn't guilt you for your needs. Real love doesn't use affection as a leash. It doesn't say "I love you" and then demand your conformity. It doesn't say "I love you" and then punish you for your independence. It says "I love you" and means "I see you, I honor you, I will not manipulate you to keep you." But people who weaponize "I love you" don't know how to do that, because they see your autonomy as abandonment, your strength as rejection, your truth as disloyalty. And so they use love as a shield, as a sword, as a spell. They say the words to keep you close but not to keep you free. And if you don't wake up, you start to believe that love always comes with pain, that love always comes with conditions, that love always demands your silence. This is how generational trauma continues. When we don't question the way love is used, we pass it on. We tell ourselves, "They didn't mean to hurt me, they loved me." And then we repeat the cycle. But love that harms, even unintentionally, must still be named, not to shame the person but to free the pattern. Because if we don't name the weapon, we can't disarm it. And if we don't disarm it, we become it. Let's get practical. How can you spot when "I love you" is a weapon, not a gift? Watch what follows it. Does it come with pressure, with guilt, with emotional demands? Does it feel like a gift you didn't ask for, but are now expected to repay? If so, pause. Ask yourself, is this love or is this control dressed as care? And here's the deeper question. Are you using "I love you" as a weapon too? Because if we're honest, many of us have used love to get our way, to avoid being left, to avoid being wrong, to avoid vulnerability. We say "I love you" when what we really mean is, "Don't challenge me," or "Don't walk away." Love, when fused with ego, becomes dangerous. But love, when fused with truth, becomes divine. The philosopher Simone Weil once said, "To love purely is to consent to distance. It is to adore the distance between ourselves and that which we love." That is the opposite of weaponized love. Weaponized love clings. Pure love respects. Weaponized love demands. Pure love offers. Weaponized love binds. Pure love liberates. So ask yourself, what kind of love am I offering? What kind of love am I accepting? And if the answer is not freedom, not safety, not truth, then it is not love. No matter how sweet the words, no matter how many times they say them, "I love you" means nothing if it's used to silence you. "I love you" means nothing if it's used to scare you. "I love you" means nothing if it's used to own you. We must become guardians of our inner world, keepers of our truth, And that means not just listening to what people say, but watching what their love costs us. If love costs you your peace, your voice, your dreams, it is too expensive. If love costs you your self-respect, your clarity, your joy, it is not love. It is emotional debt disguised as intimacy. This is the beginning of your liberation. Not from people, but from illusions. From the belief that anyone who says "I love you" deserves access to your soul. They don't. Access is earned not through words, but through presence, through consistency, through safety, through actions that don't just speak but align. And maybe the most radical thing you can do today is say "I love you" to yourself without needing to earn it, without using it to manipulate anyone else, without condition. Just because you exist, just because you are, just because your love, when clean, is the most powerful force in the world. Now that we've exposed the subtle, often invisible weaponization of "I love you," the question becomes, what do we do with this knowledge? How do we move from awareness to transformation? Because once you see the weapon, you can never unsee it. Once you felt the sting of affection turned into ammunition, you begin to realize that not all love is safe. Not all love is love. And not all "I love you" should be accepted as truth. Let's begin with the most difficult truth of all. Healing from weaponized love requires unlearning. It requires you to question not just the people who hurt you, but the beliefs that kept you close to them. Beliefs like love should hurt, that love requires sacrifice, that saying "I love you" is enough, even when actions don't align. But real love is not a feeling, it's a practice. And if someone's practice of love includes control, fear, guilt, or manipulation, then it's not love. It's domination dressed in devotion. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "To love is, in essence, the project of making oneself lovable." But people who weaponize "I love you" have never truly learned how to make themselves lovable through self-awareness or vulnerability. Instead, they try to make themselves irreplaceable through control. They don't want to be loved freely, they want to be needed desperately. And so they use "I love you" like a spell, a way to bind you, to confuse you, to keep you tethered to a version of love that serves them, but erases you. Here's the tragedy: we often believe them. Not because we're weak, but because we're wired for connection. We want to believe that love is real, that affection means safety, that closeness means care. And so we ignore the discomfort, the red flags, the gut instincts. We tell ourselves they didn't mean it, that they're just scared, that they love us in their own way. But love that must be translated is not love. Love that must be justified is not love. Love that must be survived is not love. So what happens when we stop surviving and start choosing? What happens when we stop accepting "I love you" as a reason to stay and start asking, what kind of love am I building? What kind of love am I allowing? This is where the real transformation begins. When we no longer settle for affection weaponized as control. When we no longer allow the words "I love you" to override our inner voice. Let's talk about the aftermath. Because leaving a relationship where love was weaponized is not the end, it's the beginning. The beginning of learning how to trust yourself again, how to love without losing yourself, how to speak without fear of punishment. It's a slow journey, one where you may find yourself doubting your memories, your feelings, your worth. But every time you choose peace over panic, truth over guilt, self-respect over people pleasing, you reclaim your freedom. The philosopher Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Weaponized love thrives in the unconscious. It thrives in silence, in confusion, in the spaces where we haven't yet learned to name what's happening. But the moment you name it, you reclaim power. You begin to see patterns. You begin to notice the emotional strings attached to every "I love you," and you begin to cut them. Let's say it clearly. Real love doesn't need strings. It doesn't say "I love you," then expect you to abandon your truth. It doesn't say "I love you," then punish you for setting boundaries. It doesn't say "I love you," then disappear the moment you express pain. It stays. It listens. It adjusts. It honors. If someone's love only feels strong when you're weak, that's not love, it's exploitation. And now we must ask the hardest question yet. Have we ever done this to someone else? Because healing doesn't just mean protecting ourselves from harm. It means taking responsibility for the ways we may have used love to manipulate, to control, to silence. Have we ever said "I love you" when what we really meant was "don't leave me"? Have we ever used affection to avoid accountability? Have we ever expected someone to sacrifice their needs just to make us feel secure? This is not about shame. It's about honesty. Because if we want to build a world where love is no longer used as a weapon, we must start with ourselves. We must clean our own hands. We must purify our own love. Love that is real can handle that kind of self-reflection. It doesn't run from the truth. It doesn't collapse under the weight of responsibility. It grows. It expands. It matures. So how do we love without weapons? We start by separating love from fear. Fear says, if I don't control you, I'll be abandoned. Love says, even if you leave, I will still honor you. Fear says, I need to keep you close, so I feel safe. Love says, I want you to be free, even if that freedom takes you elsewhere. Fear turns affection into a leash. Love turns affection into wings. We must also learn to listen not just to others, but to ourselves. To the subtle tightening in your chest when someone says "I love you" and it doesn't feel right. To the way you shrink after conversations that should have made you feel seen. To the exhaustion that follows the affection because you know it's conditional. These are not signs that you're broken. They are signs that your body knows the truth before your mind can accept it. Another deep question. What would your relationships look like if you only stayed where love felt like freedom? Not comfort, not familiarity, not obligation. Freedom. The freedom to be flawed, to grow, to speak, to rest, to say no, to say yes, to say that doesn't work for me, but I still care about you. That is the love we deserve. That is the love we must become. The philosopher Bell Hooks wrote, "Love is an action, never simply a feeling." Weaponized love is all feeling, all intensity, all drama, but no action, no accountability, no repair, no inner work. It demands everything and offers nothing sustainable. And yet, because it feels intense, we confuse it for depth. But depth doesn't leave you shattered. Depth doesn't leave you silenced. Depth builds. It doesn't burn. Let's now talk about rebuilding. If you've been hurt by someone who weaponized "I love you," your heart may have built walls instead of boundaries. You may have vowed never to trust again. You may have started saying "I'm fine" when you're not, just to avoid being seen as needy. But healing means learning to differentiate between danger and discomfort. Not every "I love you" is a trap. Some are real. Some are sacred. Some are clean. But to receive those, you must first become the kind of person who doesn't need to be consumed to feel loved. You must become your own source. You must learn to say "I love you" to yourself in the moments when no one else does. You must learn to sit with your loneliness without rushing into the arms of the first person who offers attention. You must learn to be still with your pain, your desires, your fears, and not run from them. Because when you can hold yourself, you stop needing others to hold you hostage. And maybe that's the final test of love. not how good it feels, but how free it leaves you. Can you breathe around them? Can you grow with them? Can you speak your truth without fear of losing everything? If not, then it's not love. It's possession. It's fear. It's trauma reenactment. So today we choose something higher. We choose to love without weapons, to express affection without expectation, to say I love you and mean it not as a demand, but as a gift. We choose to stop being victims of emotional currency and start becoming stewards of real, conscious love. And the next time someone says I love you, don't just listen, feel. Ask yourself, what does their love cost me? If the price is your peace, your voice, your joy, then it's too high. No matter how sweet the words, no matter how familiar the feeling, you are not here to be bought with affection. You are not here to be controlled with care. You are here to be seen, to be chosen, to be free. And maybe the most revolutionary thing you can do is to look in the mirror, place your hand on your heart and say, I love you and mean it.